A lot of Canadians changed their habits years ago. They stopped ordering the biggest burgers. They stopped saying yes to fries. They told themselves they were being smarter. They switched to grilled chicken, wraps, bowls, salads, items that sounded lighter, cleaner, more responsible. It felt like progress. But what most people don't realize is that while the menus changed, the system behind them didn't. In many cases, it quietly got worse. We went through menu data, ingredient disclosures, and nutritional information from major fast food chains across Canada. We looked at how these items are prepared, what's added before they ever reach the kitchen, and why they're marketed the way they are. And once you see the pattern, it becomes very hard to unsee. This isn't about panic. It's about understanding what Canadians are actually eating when they think they're making the better choice. Let's start with one of the most common healthy swaps in Canada, grilled chicken. Take grilled chicken sandwiches and wraps from places like McDonald's or Subway. They're marketed as lean, high-protein alternatives to fried options. And on the surface, they look better. But what most people don't know is that grilled chicken at major chains is usually heavily processed long before it's grilled. The meat is often pre-seasoned, pre-marinated, and injected with sodium-based solutions to keep it moist and consistent. That's why grilled chicken meals can end up with sodium levels similar to, or even higher than, fried chicken. Over time, high sodium intake puts real strain on blood pressure and cardiovascular health, especially for older Canadians. And once sauces are added, the illusion completely breaks down. Now let's talk about wraps, because this is where a lot of people get fooled. Wraps from chains like McDonald's or Subway look smaller and feel lighter than burgers, but nutritionally, they can be worse. Large flour tortillas are dense, highly refined, and surprisingly high in sodium. They're designed to be flexible, durable, and shelf-stable, not nutritious. When you combine that tortilla with processed chicken, cheese, and creamy sauces, you're often looking at a meal with more calories and faster blood sugar spikes than a standard burger. Salads are another big one. Fast food salads from chains like Tim Hortons are marketed as clean resets. Fresh greens, lean protein, but the base isn't the issue. The problem is everything piled on top. Breaded chicken, processed meats, shredded cheese blends, and creamy dressings can push these salads well beyond the calorie and fat content of a burger. Some dressings alone contain more fat and sodium than the sandwich people were trying to avoid. And because salads don't feel heavy, people underestimate what they're consuming. Then there are bowls. Protein bowls and rice bowls have become popular at fast food chains across Canada. They're framed as balanced, modern meals. But most rely on white rice, sweetened sauces, and processed proteins. The portions are large, the sauces are concentrated, and the nutritional balance leans heavily toward refined carbohydrates and sodium. They fill you up, but they don't necessarily nourish you. One of the biggest issues tying all of this together is sodium. Fast food chains rely on salt for consistency, shelf life, and flavor. Many items marketed as healthier options meet or exceed recommended daily sodium limits in a single sitting. That's not what people expect when they order grilled chicken or a wrap. Another overlooked factor is ultra-processing. Even when food looks simple, many components are industrially modified long before assembly. Proteins are altered for texture. Sauces are engineered for stability. Ingredients are chosen for cost and scalability, not long-term health. This is why meals that look different can place nearly identical stress on the body. This isn't about one dishonest chain. It's systemic. Ingredient prices are higher. Labor costs are up. Energy, transportation, and rent are more expensive than they were just a few years ago. To stay profitable, chains rely on cheap, consistent, shelf-stable inputs. That's why menus look healthier, but the food often isn't. So what does this mean if you still rely on fast food? It doesn't mean you can't eat it. It means you need to navigate it carefully. Some items really are less bad than others. At McDonald's, the Egg McMuffin is a good example. It uses a real, cracked egg, a smaller English muffin instead of a large refined bun or tortilla, and a simpler ingredient structure. Compared to wraps or large breakfast sandwiches loaded with sauces, It's lower in sugar and easier to digest. Grilled chicken sandwiches without creamy sauces can also be better than wraps or fried options. The key is avoiding heavy dressings. Once sauces are added, the advantage disappears. Plain oatmeal options without syrups are another example. They avoid processed meats and refined bread products, making them easier on the body, even if they're not exciting. The pattern is always the same. Fewer ingredients, less sauce, smaller portions, less processing. The moment a food needs flavor masking, thick tortillas, or engineered layers, it stops being the safer option it claims to be. The biggest takeaway isn't fear. It's awareness. Fast food didn't suddenly become unhealthy. It didn't change overnight. What really happened is that it evolved quietly, while the language around it changed much faster than the food itself. Canadians were encouraged to believe that smarter menu choices solved the problem. That if you avoided the obvious stuff and chose the lighter-sounding options, you were doing the right thing. And for a long time, that belief went unquestioned. But the structure behind those menus never changed. That's why so many Canadians feel conflicted now. You're not eating more fast food than you used to. In many cases, you're eating less. You're making different choices. And yet, meals feel heavier. If you've ever walked away thinking you made the right choice, only to feel sluggish or unsatisfied afterward, that experience is shared by millions of Canadians right now. The important thing to understand is that this isn't a personal failure. It's not about discipline, willpower, or making perfect choices. It's about recognizing that the system was never designed to make health simple. It was designed to make convenience reliable. And those two goals don't always align. Understanding this doesn't mean you have to swear off fast food forever. It's just that healthier doesn't always mean healthy. Sometimes it just means less obvious. And once you see that distinction, you can navigate menus with a little more confidence, a little less guilt, and a much better understanding of what you're actually getting. If this video made you think twice about choices you've been making for years without question, that's a good thing. This has been Maple Leaf Insider. Thanks for watching. Until next time.